All right, everybody, welcome back to the #1 television program in the history of the world. I am Brian Lee Durfee, author of The Forgetting Moon, The Blackest Heart, and The Lonesome Crown. All three books published by Simon & Schuster's Saga Press. Today we're going to be reviewing Terry Brooks' Running with the Demon. A pleasant surprise for me rereading this book. I absolutely adored it, and we are going to get into why. So let's talk about the covers first. This book came out in 1997. This is a first edition volume here that came out, and then this is a paperback that's come out recently. So this is book #1 in Terry Brooks' Word and the Void series. It's kind of a prequel to his massive Shannara series. I've got all of Terry Brooks' novels down here on my shelf. We'll just pan through the library here. That is my entire Terry Brooks collection right there. Anyway, all of you know that The Sword of Shannara was the book that I first read when I was a kid, bought with my own money and read it, and it inspired me to become an author all of my own. And anyway, I talk about all that stuff in other videos. You can go watch my Sword of Shannara review and my Terry Brooks book collection video. But anyway, let's talk about this book, and well, we were going to talk about the covers, and then we got derailed. So the original cover of the original hardback was, God, I love this. This is one of my favorite covers of all time, and I'm going to tell you for a couple reasons. First of all, it was done by Gerald Brom, the great, great fantasy artist who got his start doing Dungeons and Dragons stuff. But what I love, not only did he do just a great painting of this sort of tree, but there's a carnival scene in the background, but this just harkens back, just the way that it's designed, to those old 1970s, 1980s horror novels, which is perfect because that's kind of what this book was reminiscent of in a lot of ways. So I give the hardcover wraparound Gerald Brom cover an absolute A+. It's just one of my favorites of all time. And like I said, it's mostly because of this, the way that they just made this all funky and crazy and weird, and I delightfully love it. In the contrast between this and this, it's just utterly perfect. So good job for the book designer. Now let's talk about the paperback, which fails woefully on just about every God. I mean, it's almost like, why did they? I mean, what the were they thinking? I mean, now we've got just like some sort of generic computer image of dark trees in a carnival scene with the most dull. I mean, it looks like a fucking computer manual, not a novel. Holy criminy. Anyway, let's talk about the book. This is, like I said, a prequel to the Shannara series. Like a way, 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 way back prequel, I think. Anyway, it's kind of an urban fantasy. It is it's a coming of age tale. Multiple points of view characters. It's got all of the best of Stephen King and like Stranger Things. I mean, it was set in the mid 1990s. It's got teenagers, 4th of July celebrations, carnivals, small town economic problems. I mean, it's just absolutely reminiscent of everything we love about those Stephen King novels and the John Saul novels and the Robert McCammon novels. This is really kind of just Terry Brooks's, I guess, this trilogy. It just is kind of like that. It's basically a horror novel. It's not as rated R as some of those authors I mentioned. It's more of a PG-13 type of thing, as are most of Terry Brooks' things. But I dug it. Really reminded me a lot of Charles DeLint books, too. Let's talk about what it's about. So there's a prologue. So it's set in a sort of an alternate universe America, in a town called Hopewell, Illinois. And the prologue by the way, just the prologue. So I read this when it first came out and have not read it since. I remember kind of liking it back then. I absolutely 100% liked it 1,000 times more with the second reading, because I don't know if I appreciated what Terry Brooks was trying to do back then, and I do now, because I guess I was just wanting another Shannara medieval fantasy novel from Terry Brooks when this came out, and I was just kind of like, well, it's all right. It's all right. I mean, it's all right. But, was it like, no, this second reading, I absolutely adored it. I think this might go, when I do my top 10 books I read of 2023, this might make the list. I loved it that much. Anyway, the prologue, it's got some of Terry Brooks' best writing. In fact, I think this might be Terry Brooks' best written book. We've got a mysterious figure in a burnt out town, post-apocalyptical setting. We can kind of tell something's gone wrong, but we don't know what. And then the bulk of the novel, I'm assuming, is we're finding out what did go wrong, because we jump to a character named John Ross, and this prologue that we've just read is more or less John Ross's dreams and visions of what the future may be. And now John Ross is this character. He's called a Knight of the Word, and he is drawn toward Hopewell, Illinois, and Illinois. I know it's not pronounced like that, folks. I know. Hopewell. He's drawn towards Hopewell, Illinois, and he doesn't know why. In Hopewell, there's a girl named Nest Freemark. She's 14 years old. And by the way, Nest Freemark, that is such a Terry Brooks name. Like, all of the characters in all of his books just have names like that. Anyway, Nest Freemark, she's a budding magical kind of girl, like a user, but she's got some sort of sorcery about her that she knows about, that her grandparents know about. But she is being raised by her grandparents. Her grandma seems to be pretty accepting of her and all of her teenage angst and magic. And her grandpa, not so much. Grandpa doesn't seem like to be that nice of a dude. One of the things is Nest Freemark is wearing a t-shirt in the opening scene that says "Grunge Lives." I'm like, well, first of all, I don't like grunge, so how can I like Nest Freemark? Because basically you can tell this book was written in the 90s decade, because it's got a lot of that flavor to it. And which is fine. I just wish her t-shirt would have said "Classic Rock Lives," not "Grunge Lives." Anyway, whatever. So, Nest Freemark kind of lives in a normal town, kind of like the Stranger Things town, but weird magical stuff sort of orbits around her, one of which is Pick, which is a little winged flying fairy thing that kind of reminds me of Baby Groot, because it's kind of got leaves and twigs. It's kind of a twig-like creature. Well, it is like Baby Groot. And it's kind of funny, although not as funny as Guardians of the Galaxy. Got a little less humorous than that, but there is some comedic stuff. So Nest herself, though, is 5'8". She's a little bit of an awkward, tall teenage girl, but she's a sprinter. She's a good sprinter, she's a good athlete, and she runs track for her high school. But she feels different in a lot of ways, just because she's big, awkward, gangly, lerpy, athletic, and a magic user, all at the same time. She thinks she's crazy at the same time. She can't tell anyone about Pick, her friend Pick, because they would be like, because it's a little, if you had a little baby Groot walking around and it was on your shoulder but nobody else could see it, but you could see it, wouldn't you not want to talk about that? I understand. Anyway, she's also got other little animal friends that she can see. There's Daniel, the barn owl. There's Wraith, her wolf companion. And they help her defeat, in the opening scene, they kind of help her defeat this demon that is trying to convince a little girl to commit suicide. And so they rescue that little girl, they banish the demon. There's just a lot of different wraiths and things swirling through this little town that are unexplainable, that Nest Freemark and her little companions have to kind of battle with. But on top of that, that's kind of just like not even really a big part of the story. A bigger part of the story is just all of Nest Freemark's sort of teenage high school friends and how they go, they adventure through this small town like the Stranger Things cast, and just do regular teenage things. Um, like go to the 4th of July party and watch the fireworks and you know, mess around in town and talk about their parents. And you know, Nest is raised by her grandparents. She's got a questionable parentage. She does not know who. And then in comes John Ross. This not Bob Ross. Bob Ross is the painter guy. John Ross comes in, and he's this knight of the word, and he is drawn to Hopewell. And does he have some sort of connection to Nest Freemark? And it's just a delightful, wonderfully told coming of age story about these characters and this town and what we're assuming is going to be some sort of apocalyptical event in this town regarding the Night of the Word and the demons and the magic that's there. And it's all going to go, we know that it's all going to go ass over teapot because it's a prequel to the Shannara novels, and we know what happens in the Shannara novels, that the world does have some sort of apocalyptical ending to it, some sort of horrendous, zombie-like, catastrophic, nuclear war-ish, whatever. And this is sort of the series that sort of gives us a lot of the information to what happened, or at least sets up, because there's a few prequels to this ain't the only prequel trilogy to the original Shannara trilogy that talks about what happens to get us to the Shannara trilogy. But anyway, let's just say Terry Brooks has written a shit ton of novels. Anyway, God, I hope I did a good job explaining it. It's just a super fly book. It's just dope and lit in every way. And the only thing that I didn't like about it was Nest Freemark likes grunge. I mean, she's listening to Pearl Jam rather than Van Halen, and I just want to slap some musical sense into her. Stop it with the Pearl Jam and the Creed. Whatever else you're listening to, Nest. Anyway, Running with the Demon, 10 out of 10 in every conceivable way possible. Just an absolutely perfect book.